The great hall of King Aeetes' palace in Colchis was thick with tension, the air heavy with the scent of burning oil, and the low murmur of anxious voices. Every stone in the vast chamber seemed to absorb the unease, echoing it back in the flicker of torchlight and the restless shifting of feet. Flames from bronze braziers cast long, dancing shadows, distorting the faces of the king's advisors into masks of suspicion and menace. The firelight revealed more than it concealed, illuminating the fear and uncertainty that gripped the council. King Aeetes sat on his throne, his heart a storm of rage and wounded pride. His knuckles whitened as he gripped the arms of his seat, his gaze burning with accusation and disbelief. Jason, the foreign prince from distant Iolcus, had survived impossible trials that should have claimed his life. He stood tall, his eyes unwavering, a living challenge to the king's authority. He had yoked the fire-breathing bulls, their breath scorching the earth, and sowed the dragon's teeth into the black soil, from which armed warriors had sprung. Each feat was a legend come to life, a tale that defied mortal limits. This was not mortal work, treachery was afoot. Aeetes' mind raced with suspicion, for such deeds could only be accomplished with the aid of powerful magic or betrayal from within. The king suspected betrayal within his court. His eyes narrowed as he studied the faces of his trusted advisors, searching for a sign of guilt or fear. His voice echoed through the hall, sharp and accusing, as he declared that Jason could not have defied the odds alone. Someone, he insisted, had given the foreigner aid, someone close to the throne. Someone had betrayed the kingdom and the gods themselves. The accusation hung in the air, chilling the blood of all who heard it. His eyes scanned for guilt among the advisors, lingering on each face, searching for the slightest tremor or flicker of unease. The court was silent, every breath held in anticipation and dread. The king's suspicion was a heavy cloak, smothering reason and trust alike. No one dared speak, for fear of drawing his wrath. He believed one of his daughters, Chalciope or Medea, had aided Jason. The sisters exchanged worried glances, their loyalty torn between family and conscience, their futures suddenly uncertain. Medea, the king's youngest daughter, was known for her knowledge of potions and spells. Whispers in the court suggested she had fallen under Jason's spell, her heart swayed by the foreign hero's courage and desperation. Aeetes' voice thundered as he vowed to deal with Jason and the Argonauts by dawn. His orders were clear: the foreigners would not leave Colchis alive, and any traitor would share their fate. The golden fleece, symbol of power and divine favor, would not be handed over to strangers. Its golden threads shimmered in the torchlight, a prize too precious to lose. Plans were made, warriors summoned from every corner of the palace. The clang of armor and the low murmur of strategy filled the corridors as the king's loyal men prepared for the coming storm. Aeetes would make an example of the Greeks, showing all of Colchis and the gods that betrayal would not go unpunished. The fate of Jason and his companions would serve as a warning for generations. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of his realm, as the shadows of suspicion and vengeance gathered in the ancient hall, waiting for dawn to break. Princess Medea, a powerful sorceress, heard everything. Hera's arrow of love for Jason placed her in an impossible position. Torn between loyalty to her father and love for Jason, she faced a terrible choice. Her father's rage was not an empty threat. Jason and the Argonauts were in mortal danger. Helping Jason meant betraying her family and homeland. Her love for Jason intertwined with her survival. Medea decided to defy her father. She would lead Jason to the Golden Fleece. Gathering potent herbs, she formulated a plan. Under darkness, she would guide Jason to the sacred grove. Her love, fear, and instinct for self-preservation pointed to one direction. She must flee with Jason and the Argonauts. Medea slipped out of the palace, her cloak blending with shadows. She moved swiftly to meet Jason, her heart pounding. Finding him near an ancient shrine, relief washed over him. Jason took her hands, their bond forged in silence. Medea explained the dire situation. Her father planned to kill Jason and his men at dawn. They must get the Golden Fleece and sail before sunrise. Jason swore an oath to take her to Greece as his wife. For Medea, this promise was everything. It was hope for a new life, far from her father's tyranny. With their pact sealed, they set off into the darkness. Their destination, the sacred grove of Ares. A sleepless dragon guarded the ultimate prize. Their journey to the grove was a silent, nerve-wracking trek, each step muffled by the thick carpet of moss and fallen leaves beneath their feet. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, as if the ancient trees themselves were watching, bearing witness to the trespass of mortals into a realm meant only for the divine. Shadows twisted and danced in the moonlight, and every distant rustle sent a shiver down Jason's spine. The path was hidden and treacherous, forbidden to all but priests. Roots snaked across the trail, threatening to trip the unwary, and thorny brambles tugged at their cloaks. It was a place few dared to tread, a secret passage whispered about in fearful legends. As they neared, the air grew heavy with ancient power, thick with the scent of earth and something older, something magical. The very atmosphere seemed to hum with anticipation, as if the forest itself was alive with secrets waiting to be revealed. Jason felt a primal fear creep into his heart, a cold dread that made his hands tremble. He had faced many dangers before, but nothing like this, nothing so steeped in myth and mystery. At the grove's edge, the golden fleece shimmered with divine light, its golden threads glowing like captured sunlight. It hung from the ancient tree like a beacon, both beautiful and forbidding, promising glory to any who could claim it. Coiled around the tree was a dragon, its eyes vigilant, scales glinting in the faint light. The creature's massive body wound tightly around the trunk, every muscle tensed, guarding the treasure with unwavering devotion. Jason reached for his sword, instinct screaming for action, but Medea stopped him with a gentle yet urgent touch. Her eyes flashed with warning, her voice barely a whisper in the tense silence. "No," she whispered. "Magic, not force, was needed." She knew that brute strength would only awaken the beast's fury, and that only cunning and sorcery could hope to overcome such a guardian. Medea chanted in a melodic language, sprinkling magical herbs in a slow, deliberate circle. The words she spoke were old, older than the trees themselves, and the air seemed to vibrate with their power. The scent of the herbs mingled with the mist, weaving a spell of sleep and forgetfulness. The dragon hissed, its tongue flickering as it sensed the magic in the air, but the spell took hold. Its movements slowed, the tension in its coils easing as the enchantment seeped into its mind. The potion's scent and Medea's song lulled the dragon, her voice rising and falling like a lullaby woven from the very fabric of the night. The mist thickened, swirling around the beast in gentle, hypnotic waves. Its eyes drooped, vigilance wavering, the fierce light within them dimming as sleep overtook its senses. The guardian's head sagged and its breathing slowed to a deep, rhythmic cadence. Slowly, the great beast succumbed to enchanted slumber, its massive form relaxing into peaceful stillness. The danger had not vanished, but for a moment, the impossible seemed within reach. The path to the golden fleece was clear, the legendary prize now unguarded, waiting for the bravest to claim it. In that breathless silence, Jason and Medea stood on the edge of legend, their fate balanced between courage and the unknown. With the dragon asleep, the path to the fleece was clear. Medea urged Jason forward. The spell wouldn't hold forever. Jason moved swiftly, lifting the shimmering prize from the branch. Triumph surged through him. The legendary fleece was his. Cradling it, he hurried back to Medea. The danger was far from over. They were fugitives now. Together, they ran from the grove, leaving the dragon behind. The fleece's light bobbed as they fled, a beacon in the night. Their only thought was reaching the Argo, their escape. The ship was their hope against King Ait's vengeance. They retraced their steps, desperate to reach safety. The chase for survival had begun. They burst onto the shore, hearts pounding, breathless from their desperate flight through the darkened woods. The sand beneath their feet felt like salvation, the salty air a promise of escape. Each Argonaut glanced over their shoulder, half expecting to see pursuers emerge from the trees, but for a moment, all was still except for the crash of waves and the distant call of seabirds. There, gleaming in the moonlight, the Argo was moored, her hull battered but steadfast, waiting like a loyal friend. The sight of their ship filled the crew with hope, a beacon in the night after so many trials. The Argonauts sighed in relief, some collapsing to their knees, others embracing, all astonished by the prize they had risked everything to win. The golden fleece, long thought a myth, was now within their grasp. Jason stepped into the torchlight, the fleece glowing in his hands like a fragment of the sun. Its radiance cast flickering shadows across the faces of his companions, illuminating their awe and disbelief. The crew gasped in wonder. For a moment, all the dangers and losses faded, replaced by the sheer miracle of their success. They had achieved what many thought impossible. The mythical treasure was theirs, its golden threads shimmering with the promise of glory and a future forever changed. Each man reached out to touch it, as if to confirm it was real. Jason raised the fleece high, shouting victory. A cheer erupted, echoing across the water, a sound of triumph and relief that seemed to shake the very stars above. But Medea's warning cut through the celebration, her voice urgent and clear. "We must leave now!" she cried, her eyes scanning the horizon. Danger was not far behind. Her father's ships would pursue them, relentless and swift, their sails already catching the wind. The threat of capture or death loomed over the Argonauts, their victory balanced on a knife's edge. The Argonauts sprang into action, urgency driving them. Hands flew to ropes and oars, voices called out commands, and the ship came alive with frantic energy. Every second counted. The Argo sailed into the night, leaving Colchis behind. The coastline faded into darkness, the only light now the stars above and the golden fleece at their bow. Jason stood at the prow with Medea, the fleece guiding them forward. Together they faced the unknown, bound by fate and the choices they had made. He renewed his promise to her, gratitude and love swelling in his heart. Without Medea, none of this would have been possible. He vowed to protect her, whatever storms might come. Medea watched her homeland fade, the familiar shores slipping away into memory. She knew she could never return, her past left behind with every mile the Argo sailed. She had chosen a new life, her destiny now entwined with Jason's and the Argonauts. The future was uncertain, but her resolve was unshakable. Together they sailed toward an unknown future, the promise of adventure and danger ahead, but also hope, a hope born from courage, sacrifice, and the triumph of the Argo. Dawn brought horror to the palace of Colchis. The dragon stirred from a magical stupor. The fleece was gone. News spread like wildfire, shock and disbelief gripping the palace. King Aeetes' grief turned to volcanic rage. The foreigners had stolen the soul of his kingdom. His roar of fury shook the palace. They will not escape. He vowed vengeance. He knew Medea was responsible. Betrayal complete. Orders were issued. The Colchian fleet was mobilized. Absyrtus commanded the lead vessel, tasked with capturing Medea. The city was in chaos, war horns echoing. The pursuit began with terrifying speed. Aeetes watched his fleet disappear, heart cold with revenge. The chase was on. Aboard the Argo, triumph turned to grim determination. The lookout shouted, "Ships astern! A fleet!" Panic flickered, but resolve steadied the Argonauts. They bent to the oars, straining for speed. The psychological toll of the chase was immense. Jason stood at the helm, shouting encouragement. Medea, tormented by guilt, saw her brother's ship. The Colchians were relentless, closing the distance. The chase was a battle of wills, survival against vengeance. Exhaustion grew, hope dwindled. Jason knew confrontation meant destruction. Their only hope was outwitting their pursuers. A desperate gamble through treacherous waters lay ahead. Seeing the fleet gaining, Jason made a bold decision. He ordered the Argo to turn toward the Ister River. It was a risky maneuver, but their only chance. The larger Colchian ships might struggle in shallow waters. The Argonauts rowed with renewed vigor, spirits lifted. They entered the river, leaving the sea behind. The landscape changed, blue horizon replaced by green banks. For a moment it felt like escape. Absyrtus ordered swift ships to follow up the river. The chase entered a new, dangerous phase. The pursuit was a tense cat-and-mouse game. The river offered temporary refuge, but it was a trap. Darker choices lay ahead, staining their victory with sorrow.